we'll get started. Thank you everyone for being with us today. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us. We are, again, hosting these virtual town halls since about mid-March as we look to not only dealing with economic development ideas amidst the pandemic, but also economic recovery. And it seems like every week there's a new issue that we're trying to tackle, whether it's big, they're all big topics, but pandemic or racial inequities. So as we continue these series and look to better ourselves with best practices, I continually am encouraged by the participation of our spotlight speakers, and that continues today. Where I think it's nice to take a shift into more of the humanitarian role, which I think we'll hear from Julia in a few minutes. Before we get into that, just a few housekeeping items I'd like to share with you. If you do have any questions, we're going to ask that you use the Q&A function that's located in the bottom of your Zoom panel that we are all familiar with at this time. We are also going to be having an open forum at the end of our session today. So that open forum, you'll be able to raise your hand and we'll actually activate your mic, and you'll be able to come on and ask a question. That question is meant to be for the entire audience. So you're asking it of your peers. How are peers handling different things within their regions? And we'll get our speakers' take on some of that today as well. So please take advantage of that. Think about some questions that you can ask of each other at the end of our conversation today. So again, we'll use the raise your hand feature for that. If you have any technical issues or want to chat with any of the other folks on the line, please feel free to use the chat function that we're all familiar with as well. We are recording today's webinar and we'll post it online within the next few days. So you can revisit it or share it. We encourage you to do that. Everyone's going to be on mute today except for our speaker, or unless you raise your hand towards the end of the open forum. So we'll get right into it. My name is Tim Hunter, the Executive Director of the University Economic Development Association. And for those of you on the line that aren't familiar with us, that many of you probably have heard my spiel in the past, just to give you an overview of who UEDA is, and it's UEDA or UEDA. UEDA connects our members, higher education institutions, private sector businesses, and those economic development organizations to resources that facilitate economic growth within their communities. Also, an example of that connection, that resource. Never before, and we say this all the time, and like I said, it grows every week. Never before have academia, the private sector, and economic stakeholders been so reliant on one another to create economic opportunity, and it's never been more critical. And our UEDA members work together to expand economic opportunity in their communities and regions by leveraging talent, innovation, and place, and recognizing the interconnectedness of each of those elements. For more information about UEDA, I encourage you to visit our website, universityeda.org. Plenty of information as well as my contact information. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have or connect you with our network. So with that, we'll get into our agenda for today. Again, the time limits are a little bit off. We're going to just have an introductory spotlight presentation from California State University, Northridge. We'll have some Q&A for our speaker, and then we'll get into our open forum session. And if you don't have questions, again, for that session, we'll use if you do have questions, we'll use the raise your hand feature. If you don't have questions, I'm going to be asking questions of all of you. So if you don't have questions, I hope you at least have answers. So with that, let me introduce today's speaker. And our speaker today is Dr. Julia Heinen. And Dr. Heinen is the professor of music and interim director of community engagement in the Office of Community Engagement at California State University, Northridge. She served as special assistant to the dean in the Mike Kerb College of Arts, Media, and Communication from the fall of 2016 until her appointment to the OCE in July of 2019. She's been on faculty at CSUN since fall of 1995. Artist for the Buffett and DeAndrio corporations, Dr. Heinen does frequent clinics and master classes in many schools, colleges, universities, and communities throughout the United States. She's founder of the California Clarinet Clinic, a summer program that brings teachers and students from around the world to Los Angeles for applied study, master classes, and clinics emphasizing optimum performance through mind and body conditioning. So with that, I'll turn it over to Julia, but I'll start with a question, if I could, and you've got such a vast and well-acclaimed arts background, being a person who plays the clarinet and studied in the clarinet, and now you're doing community engagement. So can you explain how that transitions and translates, and what that means for your work today?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I'm so honored to be here with you all today, and I'm looking forward to talking about the Office of Community Engagement at California State University, Northridge. I get that question a lot. How does this translate from music to community engagement? And my answer to that is always, music is community engagement. If you're in music or the arts, you do not do that without being engaged with the community from the moment that you begin it. It's so integral to us as artists that we share with the community, that we engage with community, that we heighten community interest in what we do, and we participate with community and have them participate with us. So it's a perfect transition, and it's a complement to both of the sides of my job at California State University, Northridge.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah. So let me start by sharing
I'll stop there.
Some information with you here. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about the Office of Community Engagement at California State University, Northridge, and what we do and how we engage with the community. But first, I'd like to start with CSUN itself, and give you a little background about our university. So we've got more than 39,000 students on our campus. We're located in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles in California. So we are a very large urban university that is right in the center of San Fernando Valley. In 2020, Wall Street Journal and the Times Higher Education College ranking found CSUN the third most diverse learning environment in the nation. Our undergraduate enrollment of historically underserved students topped 60% in fall of 2018. Approximately 70% of our students receive some form of financial assistance. Most of our students come from our surrounding areas, so Los Angeles County and the San Fernando Valley. More than 22,000 of our students receive Pell Grants, and more of a third of our students from all racial and ethnic backgrounds identify as the first in their family to attend college. So our mission is clear. We are seeing a very diverse group of students who are first generation and who receive some form of financial assistance to attend college. In community engagement, I want to tout something we just received in January 2020. CSUN received the Carnegie Foundation's Community Engagement Classification. We're very proud of this honor, and that classification says that these kinds of partnerships with community function as a core value of education and is a defining attribute of the publicly engaged institution. The full and equal partnership that exists between the community and the engaged university brings together divergent contexts and works towards a shared vision. And we at CSUN embrace this. We embrace it to the point it is one of the first things we talk about in our mission, values, and vision statements. And it says our mission, vision, and value statements places this front and center by saying, we seek partnerships with local schools, community colleges, businesses, government, and social agencies to advance the educational, intellectual, artistic, civic, cultural, and economic aspirations of our surrounding communities. The mission of the Office of Community Engagement is to enhance academic experiences through community-based learning, engaged research, and sustain partnerships with San Fernando Valley, the greater Los Angeles area, and beyond. We work in a global situation. Based on the principles of reciprocity, civic responsibility, and democratic values, we seek to enrich scholarship and enhance the curriculum, sustain reciprocal community and academic partnerships, and prepare educated, engaged citizens to become lifelong, civically minded learners and leaders. I want to talk a little bit about what community-based learning is, just so you have an idea of what we do. Community-based learning offers students the opportunity to partner with a community group, nonprofit, or other entity that's external from their class in order to gain a dynamic learning experience that uses subject matter competency from class to address contemporary issues on and beyond campus. It is a high-impact practice that helps bolster student success. And when we talk about a high-impact practice, we talk about a practice that engages students to actually and graduate faster. We did a large data poll in the Office of Community Engagement just this past January. And I want to share some of that data with you. Excuse me. We did a data poll from our cohorts from 2011 to 2013, so we could look at graduating classes. And for us, that ended up to be about 21,600 students. And we took a look at the general CSUN population versus students who had taken at least one community-based learning course. And what we found was that their four-year graduation rate was 6.53% higher with students who had taken a community-based learning course. The six-year rate difference is huge. When you take a look at that, you see that students who took only one community-based learning course graduated at a 25% higher rate. We actually went into this data poll with the hypothesis that more of our better served students were participating in community-based learning. And about half of our students are better served and versus underserved. You can see 49 versus 51% of better served students. What we actually found out was exactly the opposite. Of the students who take a community-based learning course, 2/3 of them are from an underserved community. So what are the student learning outcomes for community-based learning? Well, students develop an understanding of the social, cultural, and civic aspects of their personal identities. They develop an understanding of social responsibility and the connections between short-term community service and greater long-term societal well-being. They develop an understanding of how the actions of individuals and social systems bring about both equity and inequity in communities and society. They develop career skills needed to address the economic, scientific, social, and civic issues of our time. And they learn and work responsibly and inclusively with diverse individuals, groups, organizations to build more just, equitable, and sustainable communities. So we are committed to this, these student learning outcomes. You might be asking, what benefits do community partners get from partnering with our CSUN students? The community partners benefits are vast, and I just listed a few here. It increases the partner's ability to spread awareness of their organization's mission and showing that there's a real issue that's needing to be solved. They build relationships with universities. These kind of organizations, these kind of partnerships help bridge gaps in understanding between the local community and the university needs. It enhances the workforce of the community partner. Partners gain added workforce either to engage deeper into their mission or to delve into new areas that they may not have the workforce to do. Career and professional development. Partners help develop and also benefit from the career skills of our students to address the economic, scientific, social, and civic issues of our time. And they gain access to new perspectives, something we call social entrepreneurship. Partners are a catalyst for change by incorporating new ideas brought to them by student teams who do not see the world as it is, but as it should be. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about a few of our huge number of programs and the impact it has on our community. So we have a Vita Tax clinic on board, and that's actually been on campus since 1970. And it offers free tax preparation for low-income community members. And just so you get an idea of the scope of this, in 2019, they served over 8,700 community members. In addition to that tax clinic, we've added Spanish language and American Sign Language translators so that we can help more community members who may have needs for those. One of our newer programs is something called Strength Youth Nourish Communities program that we do in partnership with our Department of Communication Studies and the Los Angeles Police Department Cadet program. Our upper division communication studies students help develop and refine social justice communication skills with the LAPD cadets. In addition, recently, last year, our communication studies students started doing communication workshops for the Los Angeles Police Department, and something that's so needed at this time. We also have a Strength United chartered center on campus where we work with the most vulnerable members of our community at critical moments in their lives, providing prevention, intervention, and education to address violence and abuse. We work with Justice Corps. We have a Justice Corps center on campus where we provide interns who work with the Los Angeles County court system. And we have a music therapy wellness clinic providing individually designed music activities for children and adults with disabilities and special challenges, including autism, developmental delay, physical, mental, and emotional disorders, and learning disabilities. And all of these projects, when we went in the time of COVID, we quickly pivoted to moving everything we have to a virtual format. And so all of these partnerships are working in a virtual format now. It's been pretty interesting to see some of the things that the faculty came up with. This semester has really been like no other. The inventive and creative and dedicated work of our community-based learning faculty in moving their classes and the centers online was inspirational to all of us, to me, to the students, and the faculty. The faculty and students just quickly pivoted to identify the changing needs in our community, and they just went to work. So I put a few things up here, but they did things like making face masks for area hospitals, recording books for busy parents, making at-home exercise and healthy eating videos, providing online tutoring to area schools, outreach to our senior community. Faculty and students, they jumped to action and they made significant and lasting differences during this never-before-seen time. If you're looking through this minuscule list here that I just threw up, I want to bring your attention to Xochitl Flores Marcial, Assistant Professor of Chicana Studies. Her students suddenly pivoted to helping our area businesses design COVID safety measures, and then helped them be able to either keep their businesses open or move them virtually, or have safety measures in place for when they could reopen. Then she worked with Los Angeles Public Library to tell the story of COVID-19, and they're creating oral histories in collaboration with the businesses and community members that they served. Marta Lopez Garcia, professor of gender and women's studies, had her students start writing letters to legislators and lobbied to have female prisoners released from overcrowded and COVID-infected prisons. The students also located and outfitted temporary housing for the prisoners as they were released, and are now working to find them stable housing and employment. So these are just a few of our many activities that our faculty and students suddenly pivoted to. It was amazing. My office assisted faculty, and so we came up quickly with a website to how to help faculty. And I just want to list a few things here. Oops, hang on. Let me talk about, what we're going to do in the fall. So we were in the midst when this happened of designing a community engagement experience for all of our incoming freshmen, about 1,600 students on campus. So all of these projects will be now virtual. So we have designed projects in different areas. So first, 3 different areas. Our Institute for Sustainability has 9 projects, and actually we were just discussing this morning, we're adding 2 more of these, and so I'll just pull one out. But we have a Gardeners in Residence program where the students will be given seeds and the materials to grow fruits and vegetables at home. And then those fruits and vegetables that they grow will be donated to our food pantry and given out to community members with recipes that the students will have tested and used with those vegetables and fruits that they grew. We also have some letter writing projects, Dear Stranger letter writing projects. So for example, our students will write to middle and high school students and do letter exchanges. And we have some oral history projects where our students will reach out to, for example, retired journalists and do an oral history project on their experiences in their field. So we are working diligently to give community-based learning experiences to all of our students. Many of these projects that I have listed here also come with a certificate that the students can earn in whatever the project is that they choose to do. Here's some of the things that we quickly move to for what our faculty could pivot to, just to give faculty a quick idea of things that they could do. So many of them just jumped right in and moved with their community partners to create materials for them that were digital. So help move a brick and mortar business online so that the business could continue to earn income and employ its workers. So it was amazing. The other thing we also found, there was a need for us to connect just with each other. So we developed a web page that was called Connect with Community. And we listed resources for basic needs, housing and food insecurity, homelessness, our undocumented students, what community members might need for basic needs, help for our small businesses, mental, physical health, and help for parents who are now suddenly homeschooling their children. We also had a space for virtual performing arts events where people could just go on and enjoy an arts event online. We offered free classes. We offered times that we had just coffee with community, so community members could sign in, or this includes staff, faculty, and students, can sign in and just chat with other members of the community. We had a crafting with community time where people could sign in and just craft with each other. And for me, it was amazing to see the number of people who would sign in. I was knitting online, but the number of people who would sign in and they were making masks or they were making clothing to donate to shelters. We did mindfulness sessions. We had virtual yoga sessions, and we had quarantine chats. We just had a huge number of rotating things that just happened, and it was an amazing semester. And many of these things we're just going to continue to do them because we had no idea of the need that was out there. Something we were working on in the midst of this, which was actually the second part of our Carnegie application process, was a virtual site. So it's a community engagement exchange. And so what this is it's not up yet, and I just threw up this very preliminary what the web page might look like, and you can see at the top. So this will be a one-stop shop for faculty, staff, students, members of our community to reach out to us and to find out whatever they need help with. So for example, we might have a faculty member who is interested in projects or finding out about incorporating something in a class that they're going to teach on food insecurity for middle school age students. So they could come to this website and search for food insecurity ages 10 through 12 and find out, well, here are other faculty on campus that are doing this research. Here are classes that have either that as a component to the class or are teaching about that. And here are our community partners who deal with that. We also can have members of the community who reach out to us who think about, well, gosh, I've got this issue I want solved. I need to know about this particular blight with a fruit tree, and they can reach out to CSUN and find out, wait a minute, here is the faculty member that I can contact about this particular issue that I'm having. Our goal with this is that everyone thinks about CSUN as the first place to ask a question and to get an answer or to get several answers, and that we can connect our community organizations with our community members and fulfill this need here. I want to play a little bit of wanted to show you a little bit about what our students do. And I'm hoping the sound works here, we'll see. But this is a junior in health science class 439. And this is about our CSUN food garden.
Oh, didn't see you there. I was working on the kale that I've been growing these past 2 weeks. This past semester, I've been volunteering at the CSUN Food Garden, and I've been teaching different gardening techniques to our students and promoting sustainability by producing fresh produce and giving it out to students in our food pantry. As a health educator on campus, I work very closely with other health educators to help our students deal with certain issues that are very relevant to college. I play an active role in my community to ensure campus safety by strengthening our policies and laws at the University Student Union. As a camp counselor at Camp Ronald McDonald for Good Times, I devoted my weekends, summer, and holidays throughout the year to positively affect the health of children diagnosed with cancer through therapy and fun activities. I believe that health equity is the equal opportunity and fairness to healthcare services and the accessibility to health. Health equity should promote sustainability, help the people, the ones that you love, and also advocate for healthcare for those who need it, regardless of age, race, religion, and socioeconomic status. It's a fundamental right, and health is important. How can we live life without good health? So it is important and it's crucial to be taken care of.
Yeah, Denise is just one of our 5,000 students who participate in any semester of a community-based learning course, and we're so proud of her and all of our other students. I want to thank you for your time today. I want you to know that CSUN's long history of serving our community is healthy and flourishing, and with the dedication and creative and unstoppable work ethic of our faculty and students, we will not only continue to serve our community, we've shown that we're able to help them thrive in these unheard of times. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julia. Appreciate it. And I don't know that I could be a gardener in residence. I can't keep anything alive. So I truly appreciate that skill, no matter where it exists. And it's great that it's going towards wonderful causes. So I'm going to again ask folks and encourage you to use the Q&A function in the Zoom panel to ask questions, and I'll relay those to Julia about CSUN, about anything that's going on. And you know, I'll start with, you know, I think CSUN has dealt with, well, and we're all dealing with multiple major issues right now. You know, whether it's you know, equality, whether it's pandemic, joblessness, homelessness, all these things. And you know, I know that Los Angeles in general is a very is an area where a lot of those issues are have a spotlight on them, you know. And then add to that, I guess, an earthquake last night, right? So, you know, there's continually pieces to that puzzle that you're trying to fit together and solve. So, You know, for your office, you know, what's been most challenging, and you know, what have you learned from that?
Well, what has been most challenging is identifying the new needs of our community and reacting to them, and hearing about just the great variety of needs that suddenly became apparent. How do students borrow any kind of books because our public libraries are closed? How do parents access resources? So just the amount of problems that have come up that we quickly had to find ways to solve were things we never even considered having to solve. Um, and you're right, now we have earthquakes, and we've been having riots in Los Angeles. The rioting luckily has stopped, so now we just have protests, but we're about to enter a fire season. So there are all kinds of interesting things. What I'm so inspired by is that the students at CSUN think about these issues before we do, and they're the ones that reach out and say, wait a minute, we've got to think about this, and it's fantastic.
But I assume just knowing your students and the diversity there and meeting some of them whenever we had our conference out there in Los Angeles or Long Beach, um, you know, I can't say that that's surprising, knowing your students. So what's out of this process that you've having to go through, that we all are, um, what's been most surprising, I guess?
Most surprising is the amount of is the missing the connection with actual human contact. And that has been difficult for students, faculty, staff, community members, that there's no actual contact. It's done now in a virtual manner. So we're working through finding ways to be able to combat that with social distancing, or having intermittent meetings, but that's been a very difficult thing. We're a large urban campus, and most of us grew up in a large city and live in a large city, so suddenly not having contact with other people has been difficult.
Sure. Um, in developing a lot of the programming that you did, have there been any models that you looked at in trying to put pieces together as to what will be right for CSUN?
Yeah, actually, the California State University system has a group of community-based learning centers with all 23 campuses. And so when this happened, we instantly got together with this group of professionals from around the state, but also with other groups of professionals from around the country through an organization called Campus Compact. And we were solving these issues together. And sharing ideas and sharing things that were developed, and some schools had certain things in place beforehand, and others had other things in place. So there was a large gathering and collection of data that was instantly shared with everyone. So everyone jumped to the front of helping this, and it's actually been inspiring. And we realized, why weren't we doing some of these things prior to this?
Right.
It's been fantastic just realizing, wait a minute, you know, we didn't have to wait for this crisis to actually do these kinds of things.
One, it's interesting too how it spawns innovation, that you're finding new things that you've created and now are going to continue on even, you know, well into the future. So that's nice to see as well.
Yes, I mean, just outreach to senior communities through delivering food. You know, that it's not just the providing food to people who may not be able to leave their homes because of sheltering in place, but that it provides a connection to them, which is so much needed.
Mm-hmm. So you listed a number of resources, particularly web resources that you've created and developed. What sorts of platforms are you using to get those up and running? And I'm thinking, you know, just the web infrastructure, but then if there's any additional functionality beyond that, and you know, how did you come across what's right and what's best?
Well, we wanted to use things that virtually everyone could access from whatever piece of technology that they have. So CSUN, we use Zoom for many things. So for example, our yoga classes and our mindfulness sessions and everything were done through Zoom meeting functions. We also had on our website a video you can see there if you look at our website on how to use Zoom, because we realized that there were people who didn't realize, how do I use this? So here's a video you can watch, just click from our website. Here's how you do this. And the number of people who would write to me and say, oh, this is so much easier than I thought. It's like, yeah, I actually have to say, yeah, it's easier than I thought. I had used Zoom just a minimal amount, but it's been terrific.
It better be, because we have to live it, right? Every day, constantly. So.
And you know, since it's such a wide platform, widely used platform, we found that it was best for our purposes to stick with that. We didn't want to have multiple things there. But we, you know, easy Google Docs for people to leave us comments, things like that. So we can, yeah.
So how has the digital divide worked into, you know, your situation? You know, I'm assuming that you know, not everyone in LA is connected, and within your service area is connected, or has equipment to even connect. So how has that played a role against you, maybe?
Well, first of all, the university jumped to the fore with this, that any student, faculty or staff, but anyone who needed a computer, for example, to connect, they were provided with a computer to connect, which was fantastic. So computers were gotten back from colleges and given out. So we know that every student who did not have the equipment to move virtual had the equipment to move virtual. That included giving out hotspots to people so that they could connect. You know, it's kind of interesting. I would go drive by campus and I would actually see people nearby campus who had come in their cars to use the campus Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
Which great, you know, here was a way they could figure out, okay, I can sit in my car and I can use the campus Wi-Fi to connect and do my classwork online. So the university solved that issue instantly. It was fantastic.
That's great. Yeah, and I think some other entity, I think it's going to be at, I'm not sure if it's Walmart's. They're going to set up designated parking spots that have Wi-Fi enabled, that you can come and park your car and use the Wi-Fi there. So, you know, it's, yeah, I mean, you've been doing it, so that's wonderful.
Right, and our whole campus is Wi-Fi, you know, so you can sit outside and use Wi-Fi. So it is very possible to be socially distanced and using it outside. And I do see students on campus sitting in the lawns and just using it.
Mm-hmm. We had our session with the Economic Development Administration earlier in the week. Have you been engaged with any government agencies or receiving any requests from government agencies as far as your programming and how they might engage with it in some way?
We have been receiving requests, and I'm not sure if we received any, that my office has received any from government agencies, but we have been receiving requests about how we can supply help for certain community partners in our area and jump to the needs of different things. But I'm guessing the university may have been receiving requests from government partners.
Okay. And you have very forward-thinking leadership, you know, in Dr. Harrison, and many institutions, you know, may not have that luxury. So thinking about kind of your lessons learned from your projects, and you know, having to need to sell that up to leadership, would you have any recommendations for anyone that might have similar ideas that need to work that hurdle?
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate at CSUN to have President Harrison and her commitment to community engagement. Yes, what we did and what we've begun to do at CSUN is actually put rewards for, or put it in as part of the personnel process for faculty. So it is something that is rewardable as a faculty member that they can point to. I actually was speaking with another university, James Madison, and it is actually required in their, as a faculty member, to have a community-based component to their tenure and promotion file. So there is an example also, like CSUN, of leadership. So this can come from the faculty side of things. Faculty can put this forward to leadership to say, wait a minute, we don't just exist in the center of a city. We are actually an integral part of this community. And that's something that a university should be doing. We should be part of a community, not an annoyance because we're there to a community. So there's a lot of annoyances for a community to have a university, parking and traffic and all kinds of things. So we look at our partnership with our community as one where neither of us could exist without the other.
That's great. Yeah, and I think that that's something that we definitely support at UEDA. You know, the three-legged stool of talent, innovation, and placemaking is just as important to an institution's survival. So as well as their role in economic engagement. So so I can appreciate that very much. So we're going to turn now just to our open forum real quick, and I hope you'll stick around with us. And as we do, I'm going to ask folks again to use the Q&A or prefer the raise your hand feature so that I can call on you. You can actually ask a question. So we'll start with that. If anyone has any questions that they, you know, maybe things that they're tackling within their own regions that they would like to ask of everyone else on the call, we'd love to have your participation, and we'd love to try to group solve some things together. And you know, as folks are pondering that, again, use the raise your hand feature. You know, Julia, is there anything that you might want to ask the audience of, you know, things that maybe you're tackling that that you might want to crowdsource an idea or something from somewhere else?
Thank you, Tim, very much. Well, we had two Julias here.
Either Julia can answer.
two Julias from CSUN. Julia Heinen, if you want to take that, and then I'd like to lean in on that as well.
You take that, Julia.
All right. So I am Julia Potter. I am from California State University, Northridge, and I also am the president of UEDA. So these town halls have taken on exceptional meaning and importance to the work of UEDA. So just speaking holistically, not just from my institution, but for our membership organization, I think this is the time for us to really think through innovation and problem solving. What is the larger role of the university as placemakers, talent generators, and innovation drivers? We have a summit coming up. We really want to take a very deep dive about that, particularly in this time of exceptional challenges and really rethinking where are we going as a country and what is our role. I take a lot of pride, Julia Heinen, in the work that our campus does around civic engagement, and as we graduate our students, they are civic minded. There is a commitment to place. So I think the question around crowdsourcing, Tim, is really now, as we have come through our experience with COVID and civil unrest, inequity, social justice, is really what is our role? And then when you add on top of that the stress and strain about pivoting to the virtual environment and universities collectively, how do we meet our missions? And I do take heart that UEDA is able to celebrate advances and has the courage to talk about areas that need to change or need to grow.
So yeah, so if I can maybe distill it into one simple question for folks. And we asked this question actually a couple weeks ago, so I'm glad it's resurfaced. And that is, how are institutions now with the shifts that they're making relative to going virtual, renewed engagement perhaps with their communities, from a messaging standpoint, the messaging, the value of higher ed institutions, how has that changed for folks? Anyone on the call, how has that shifted, or is it a temporary message, or in Julia Heinen's case, is it shifting to maybe more of a more permanent message? So does anyone have anything that's on the call that would like to? Am I right, Julia? Is that a good sort of that messaging, right? Like, how are you
Yes.
messaging the value of your institution, and how has that changed, if at all? So can anyone speak to that? If so, the raise your hand function is would be great, and I'll allow you to speak.
Tim, I see a question in the chat, which really goes back to how do you communicate your story? What is the best way for us to tell what we're doing now and to be able to message that we are open to change? What is the best approach? And I'm going to say that CSUN undertook the IEP process through the APLU, and UITA has a partnership with that. That really was an opportunity to give us a structure around understanding our capacity, where we needed to grow. One of the tenets of IEP is no show tell, promotes engagement. So I think that's part of the work, is taking advantage of the work of these professional associations to help us understand who we are and what we do well and how to communicate that out, because many times that really is the barrier, is that we are doing great work, but it's just not being socialized out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that we see that time and time again. I think with our membership, and as as an organization, I think that's something that starting with foundations work that's been developed for foundations for strategy and practice, creating common messaging, common definitions, common taxonomy, common ways that we're talking about things to simplify what has often become this complex structure, so that others can understand it in a more meaningful way, I think is a big part of how I view the role of UEDA playing with institutions of higher education. So I haven't seen any hands pop up as far as anything that's shifted, and I think that likely is an indication that it's still shifting. That it necessarily hasn't been fully addressed. I think that we've been reactionary to a point as associations and organizations, and we're trying to catch our breath. And once we catch our breath, we'll think about the messaging and how that impacts things moving forward. So. At least that's kind of what I'm at least hearing with folks, as well as maybe with even CSUN too.
Mm-hmm.
So final call for questions, and the questions to post to the group, questions for any Julia that you would like to ask a question of. I'm sure they would be happy to answer. So as you think about maybe those final questions, I'm just going to give you a couple of things here. Let me pull through. So we do have a COVID-19 discussion group that's on LinkedIn. Sometimes I forget to mention that, but please feel free to go on there, chat with others, post your ideas, post your websites, post your resources, communicate with your peers. That's what it's all about. So please take advantage of that. And you can just search for UEDA COVID-19 and you should find it right away. We do have 2 other town halls that are coming up. Again, we're going to an every other week format here starting in June and going through July. The next one we have in 2 weeks is with Fanny Yee. She's with Case Western Reserve University, done some amazing work, and we'll be showcasing some of her data on that call, which we're very excited about. And then on July 2nd, I think is the next one that I have in my head. July 2nd, we have Shannon Blevins from University of Virginia at Wise sharing their ideas. So we're trying to go all over the country with with these, and I'm going to reach out to our Canadian friends next, I think, to try to get some ideas on what's going on up there. In addition to our LinkedIn group, just want to remind you that our Awards of Excellence nomination deadline is coming up with our summit going digital, which was announced last Friday. Our Awards of Excellence has been extended, so if you have best practices, COVID related or not, we want everything and anything that is a best practice that is replicable, scalable, original, and impactful, and we want to see those. So our deadline is July 1st. Please take an opportunity to be recognized. That's part of telling your story as institutions, and we definitely want to reward and recognize those that are doing great work within their regions and use that as a great recognition for peer-to-peer engagement. And then lastly, I did mention our summit. So that digital summit is coming up in September. Same as our in-person summit, we're working through details of registration and everything. We're just asking folks to hold those dates right now, September 21st to 24th. Again, that'll be online, but it's going to be like no other online event that you've been participating in. It's going to be roll up your sleeves, invite your ecosystems. We're going to be having Post-its on a wall, and it's going to be incredibly engaging. That's how we do things at UEDA, and I'm excited that our summit, even though it'll be digital, will still be engaging and impactful. So look forward to that, and look forward to seeing you online, at least at that time. So with that, no other questions have come in. So either Julia, either of you have any closing comments or thoughts?
Julia Heinen?
I want to thank you all for your time and letting me talk a little bit and brag about the Office of Community Engagement, but more importantly, California State University, Northridge. I hope you can all come and visit us someday. It's a fantastic place to work, and our students are amazing. Our faculty are amazing, staff and administration, all amazing people. Come anytime. We'd love to show you around.
And I think my final words are, I hope that you can use this as just a real injection of positivity about the work that we all do, that the significance of working for universities and colleges, that we are agents of change. Real transformation is happening on our campus. Real engagement in our universities, whether as directly showable as we strive to do at CSUN, or if it's sort of more covert, but the impact of your institution is huge. And we need to embrace that, celebrate that, champion that, and nurture that now more than ever. We are indeed innovators, and we are indeed talent elevators, and we are indeed placemakers. And without us, I just don't even want to think. So congratulations to everybody for your extraordinary work and your commitment to your institutions, and that you look to UEDA to support your work. Thanks very, very much.
And that starts with our next town hall coming up in 2 weeks. Please take advantage of that. If you have questions in the meantime that you'd like to post for the audience, as you have those, if you're working on stuff and want to shoot those to me in an email, I'll hold on to them for our open forum discussion and pose those to the group whenever we meet again in 2 weeks. So thank you all for your time today, to both Julia and Julia. Thank you so much for being here with us and showcasing CSUN, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Take care. Stay safe.
Bye, everybody.